Big game on Saturday. Newport County hosting Cheltenham Town, two sides who were down and out almost a couple of weeks ago, and suddenly we've both hit a little bit of form. So I don't know whether that makes it more exciting or not, but feels like there's a lot riding on it. So, I mean, let's get straight into it. We can't have a conversation about these two teams without talking about a certain Mr Mike Flynn. So can you tell us about the manner of his departure from Whaddon Road?
Yeah, I'm one of the Cheltenham fans who thinks he had his arms tied behind his back, and both his legs. He was working under a director of football in Gary Johnson. Obviously, a lot of your listeners would have heard of. Gary Johnson done a brilliant job at Cheltenham when we got relegated out of the Football League, got straight back. Should never have come back as a director of football. Michael Flynn came in. A lot of the fan base was excited when we did it because of the job he'd done at your place. Two similar sized clubs. Probably the same sort of budgets at the time. But obviously we've been going through a takeover, which has just gone through. Mike Garlick's taken over, so we've got a bit of money being pumped into the club. And I think Michael Flynn was desperate to get to the point to have that money to take the club onto the next level. But it never happened. The summer was poor. The recruitment was poor. We signed injury-prone players. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on us. At one point we had 8 or 9 players injured, and 4 or 5 of them was our back four. But there was players we knew were injury-prone players, and so that's the sort of things he had to deal with. Tom Bradbury went to Harrogate. He wanted to keep him. It was well known, I think, that Tom Bradbury was offered a deal by our director of football, which was quite easy to turn down. I always say with Cheltenham Town, there's many of clubs in the Football League that we lose players to and go, yeah, I understand, bigger club, go on. No disrespect, Harrogate Town's not one of those clubs. So it just gives you it gives you the sort of the background of what Michael Flynn had to put up with. And he wasn't the only player that we lost along the lines of that, and in the end, sadly, it bit him.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that we know about Mike Flynn, it's that he doesn't like working under a director of football. And we were watching it from afar. It looked as though there was a power struggle along the lines of perhaps what you've intimated. But then Gary Johnson got sacked, and we thought, oh, well, that's resolved itself, and Flynn's going to be top dog, which is what he wanted. And then Flynn went a few weeks later, which I think surprised some of us. I thought he'd then be given that time, but I guess results just weren't going his way.
Yeah, no, Gary Johnson actually resigned.
He
resigned because the fans were protesting, and there was banners at Crawley at the home game wanting him out. And it's probably the only honourable thing he's done in the last 18 months, and listened to the fans and left. And I was the same. I was like, right, now let's give him a chance. Mike Garlick's here. There was talk about us bringing in some free agents because the money's there. And then we lost 3-0 at home to Oldham, and ironically, we lost the week after he left. We lost 7-1 at Grimsby, even though he's down to 9 men, I might add. But weirdly, the performance at home, the 3-0 defeat to Oldham, was worse than the Grimsby one. It was shocking. You could just see the players are kind of lost. I won't say the word interest. They sort of like they've lost sort of trust in their manager. I looked down at Michael Flynn, and he was just stood on the touchline. It was like he'd lost ideas. And I don't know whether any of your listeners had listened to Michael Flynn's interview, and after that Oldham game, he definitely knew he was going, because he threw a few punches, and rightly so. But yeah, it was sad to see. Like I say, he's a good bloke. I had a lot of time for him. Black is black and white is white with Michael Flynn. We all moan about managers coming on after an interview and say the old cliches, and they tell you they've seen a different game to you. Michael Flynn's seen the game that most of us seen every Saturday, and that's what I like. But of course, he lost the fan base, and as you know, once you lose the fan base, it's hard to get it back, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I find endlessly fascinating about his career, he did extremely well at Newport County and deserves all the praise that he got, because he came in and his skills were as a motivator, as a man manager, getting the best out of a group of players that you inherit, getting them to run through walls for each other and for you. And then, sort of using that as the nucleus of his side. If you look at all the places he's been to since Walsall, Swindon, you guys, it seems he's sort of done the opposite. He's gone in, he's brought in players he's worked with previously, and you've ended up with sort of schisms in the dressing room and cliques, and perhaps that's been sowed the seeds of discontent. And I don't know. That's my kind of pet theory, is actually he hasn't used the greatest asset in his locker, which is that he's a fantastic man manager and a great motivator. But I don't know whether that like ties in with what you're saying or not.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Something went on, and he clearly lost the dressing room because, like I said, the performances weren't there, and you've only got to see the two performances under Steve Cotterill since he's gone. It's just like, where's this team been? But I do think he was harsh. He's been treated harshly. He's taken the can for a lot of poor decisions behind the scene. Let's not be around the bush. Last season we come down from League One. Our main aim, and even the fans were saying, was let's not do what Forest Green and all done and go straight through. And we finished 15th. But we only finished 10 points off the playoffs. We had a player called Joe Colwell on loan from Cardiff who scored 9. He was a midfielder, scored 9 goals in the first part of the season, and Cardiff called him back and sent him to League One. Had he kept Joe Colwell, I still believe Cheltenham might have had a chance of the playoffs. It was since when Joe Colwell back, our results started to differ. And we had that great result at your place last season. But he done what was expected of him, and like I said, a realistic, without being a fickle football fan, a realistic football fan was he came in, he stabilised us. We finished 15th. We was 18 points off the relegation zone, 10 points off the playoffs. But the season started horrendous, and apart from we lost 3-0 on the last day at Bromley, so it was just a continuous results. And like I said, I think he lost the majority of the fan base then. And as I just said, once you lose them, it's hard to get them back, isn't it?
Yeah, well, of course, now he's out of a job. A lot of our fans are kind of keeping tabs on, whether he might show up again at Rodney Parade.
Well, that's what a few of our fans think, because the weird thing is like a lot of people, we've said it on other pods, and we're like, why didn't it work at Cheltenham? And it's, why didn't we get the Michael Flynn that Newport County had? But Michael Flynn to Newport County is Michael Duff and Steve Cotterill to Cheltenham Town. Sometimes it just works, doesn't it? Somebody comes in, they get the club, they care about the club. I can remember this is one of the reasons he lost a couple in the first game of the season, oddly, last season, because when he was interviewed, it was Newport this and Newport that, and not me, but you get that core of fans, don't you? And it was like, oh, all he does is praise up his old club. He said to our BBC radio commentator after the game, he went, I hated that. He hated the fact, he was pleased that Cheltenham won, but he said he absolutely hated the fact that he had to play 1, Newport on the opening day of the season, 2, we beat you 3-2. And he said, I'm just glad it's out of the way. And he said after, he goes, I hope Newport go on and get promoted now. But of course, you get some fickle football fans, they don't want to hear that. He just stemmed from all the little things like that. But I fully expect to see him rocking back up at your place. We might do you a favour, we might come and do you on the weekend, and then you could have Flynn back for the week after.
Well, I don't know. I think there's division, to put it mildly, in the fan base about whether he'd be the right man to come back, and whether under Hugh Jenkins, the chairman, whether actually Flynn's the sort of manager you would want in anyway. I think there's a sense that, well, if Newport find ourselves in trouble, then we pick up the phone, we call Mike Flynn, we get the old band back together, and we have another great escape. I just think football doesn't always work out like that, and I'm not sure whether Hugh Jenkins would want a Flynn type manager, and I don't think that Mike Flynn would want to work with a Hugh Jenkins type chairman. So it feels to me like a situation that, I'm not saying it wouldn't come about, but it doesn't. It's not one that would fill me with a massive amount of optimism. I also just think, well, actually, you're an interesting person to talk about this. I sort of think, just in general in football, never go back. But you've just reappointed Steve Cotterill, so how's that working out? So far, so good, right?
Yeah, well, it is, and to be fair, it's something we've been clamoring for 23 years. He left Cheltenham, he left Cheltenham back in 2002 after we won promotion at the Millennium Stadium, and he went on to Stoke. And every time he was out of a job, and it was well known at one point, he did turn around and say he probably would never go back because of legacy and what he'd done. He said in his interview 2 weeks ago, he went, "I don't think my legacy will ever be broken." He said, "I don't think I'll ever beat it unless I get Cheltenham to the Premier League," because to get Cheltenham back in the Football League from 97, 98 season, 98, 99 season. Was massive because we wasn't a club with money. It just we spent a short period of time in the conference, but just what we was lacking under Michael Flynn, Steve Cotterill coming back the last 2 weeks, it's just been like a fairy tale. Steve Cotterill was he's pretty much crying in his press conference at the training ground on the first day. He had to stop talking because he was emotional. And I don't know where we saw the scenes after we beat Fleetwood. It was like we'd just been promoted, but that was just like, that's what us as fans wanting. That's what Newport fans want. That's why I kind of look at you guys and think Michael Flynn coming back, that bit of like, somebody who gets your club, because sometimes you get managers who come in and all they do is moan about the budget. When they know we're small clubs, we're not Coventry City in the Championship, or Man United in the Premier League, but we're community clubs. We're fans who get that we're on shoestring budgets. Well, hopefully we ain't going to be going forward, but Michael Flynn gets that with Newport, and he'll come in and he'll make everybody buy into it. And that's why I just see that maybe he's a perfect fit to go back. So I'm usually a guy who says never go back, but I think when there's that bit of romance in it, and he's an open town boy like Steve Cotterill is, I think you can make exception.
Yeah, and results have picked up. So you got a win, and then you were cruelly denied a second victory on the weekend. Is that right?
Yeah, we beat Fleetwood 2-0 on the opening day. Steve Cotterill's first game, and then on Saturday we went to Gillingham. And I said when I was driving down there, I'll take a point all day long. We set up, and it's good. It was a good game plan. I call it a brilliant away performance. We basically banked in. We frustrated them. They had, you'll see the stats, and Gillingham had 30 shots, but probably 25 of them come from 25 yards. They were just trying to shoot from anywhere because they couldn't break us down. And then when we score in the 87th minute, you're thinking, what a smash and grab. And then I look at the clock. There's 5 minutes added on. 15 seconds to go, they're attacking. I'm thinking, just clear this. And it just ricochets around, and heartbreak. But I think it would have been harsh on Gillingham had they lost. But
I don't know what you made of them. When we played them, I thought they were the best side we played so far this season. If they don't go up automatically, I'll be astonished. So I think a point from their place is a very good point to get.
Yeah, take a point all day long. Like I said, usually, say we come to your place next Saturday and we're 1-0 up in the 87th minute. You snatch a draw in the 95th. I'll be driving back home. I'll be absolutely gutted, because obviously it's a game same as you with us. You'll be expecting to win, but because I was expecting a point down there, it wasn't as bad as I was driving home. I was like, I'm happy that's 4 points in the 2 games. But yeah, it's still a long way to go in the season, isn't there?
Well, let's get on to this weekend then. So you're in the middle of a 3-game sandwich that we've got with Accrington away last weekend, Harrogate away the week after, and then you're the filling in the middle. You're the home match between 3 games against potential relegation rivals, and you're probably the one that a month ago we looked at and thought, well, that's the banker. If we can't beat Cheltenham at home, then we're in trouble. But of course, it's all changed now. You're hitting a bit of form. We've just won 2 in a row. One of them, all right, was in the Football League trophy, but it was at Cardiff, so there was a lot of pressure on it, and 1,500 away fans. Yeah. So it's 2 sides going into it on a little run of form. All right, it's only a couple of games each, but suddenly 2 sides who were not feeling great a month ago are now coming into it and thinking, well, we ought to win this. But I don't know, what's your expectation?
I'm hoping it's something similar to when we come down in February last year. I think it's bigger for Cheltenham, because obviously you just mentioned it. You got Harrogate away, and don't get me wrong, Harrogate's not an easy place to go to. But after this, we got Walsall at home, which is on Sky, so on 12:30 kickoff, and then we'll the weekend you'll have Harrogate. We don't play to the Monday night because it's on Sky again, and we got Notts County, so we got 2 very tough games coming up after this. So I think if Newport come away with a draw on Saturday, it's not the end of the world for you guys. You'll be like, you know what, we've kept Cheltenham below us. But if we lose on Saturday, knowing that we've got Walsall and Notts County coming up next, then that bit of what Steve Cotterill has done is built, in a short period of time, he's just built that belief up. What you don't want is to say lose to yourself, go and lose to Newport, to Walsall in Notts County, and got the FA Cup in between that as well. All that sort of feelings out the window, could be out the window kind of thing. But it's going to be a tough game. I can't. In my head, usually I'm like, 2-1. Like I said 1-1. I'd take 1-1 at Gillingham, but this game I just don't know. I think it's because I feel a bit more nervous about it.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I can't really predict this one. I quietly fancied us to get a win at Accrington on Saturday, just because I thought we'd have such a huge boost from the game midweek. But I just think it's going to be two teams who are very up for it, and first goal, I think, will be the real critical factor. But beyond that, I wouldn't like to guess who's going to get it. And you've sold out the away end, haven't you? Or you've sold like 800 or something like that.
I think we sold quite a few. I think the club posted something earlier, but there's loads of people saying I ain't got my tickets yet, but I'm going to get my tickets. So I think it would be close to what we bought last season, which I think was around about the 800 mark, wasn't it? If we were doing well with Steve Cotterill being back as well, I think we probably would be selling out the away end. But Cheltenham's we're one of those clubs. It just takes, we're like an old oil machine. It just takes a few fans to see that oil machine get going before they start jumping back in and getting on the away bandwagon. But I'm looking forward to it. It'd be good.
And predictions. I mean, firstly, I suppose who should we be watching out for in your squad? Who's going to make the difference?
Isaac Hutchinson. We signed on loan from Bristol Rovers on deadline day. He scored 5 goals this season. He's a number 10. He scored 5 goals this season. He scored 3 and 5 for Cheltenham since joining, and 1 assist. He was the one who rattled the bar on Saturday as well. And Sam Sheeran followed up and scored. He's been absolutely brilliant. The really good news for us was Jordan Thomas, who was expected to be out till Christmas. He broke his shoulder in, I think it was the Barnet game. And we thought he was going to be out until at least Christmas. So to see him on the bench on Saturday, he came on. If Jordan Thomas is fit to start, that's another one to watch out for. And we've just signed Ben Stevenson as well. This is what I mean. The Mike Garlick money's being shown.
I was going to ask about him because we had a chat on the pod a month or so ago, or just after the window shut, and we were saying, well, who on that PFA list would we sign? And you know what it's like, you don't know who's being linked with where and who'd be in our budget. But I was looking through the list, doing a bit of Wikipedia searching, and I went, if there's one player who I think would really improve our squad, it's him. A proper like midfield grafter. In the end, we signed Sammy Braybrooke on loan from Leicester, who looks incredible but is young, whereas Ben Stevenson, I thought, was a sort of nice, experienced option. He's done well for you so far, right?
Yeah, he's a Calmed. I said on our Talk of the County podcast on Sunday, without trying to liken him too much, reminds me a bit of like a Michael Carrick, just someone who likes to just sit and like break play up and I'm not saying he's so much of someone who will spray a 30-40 yard pass, but he just plays that simple 5-6 yard pass and just gets things going. But he isn't a player that, he was linked with Portsmouth in the summer. Now, I've been told that apparently he was close to joining somebody in the summer, but they messed him about and it fell through. And that's why he ended up without a club. So whether that was Portsmouth, I don't know. But there was Portsmouth, your rivals, Cardiff City, Rotherham and Stockport were in for him. So he's had some good clubs looking at him. Yeah. He was at Portsmouth before and didn't hardly play, which is weird. But for us to get him, like I said, with Mike Garlick coming in there, we've just signed Jonathan Tompkinson as well. Another really good player. USA under 23 internationals, played Saturday. Sam Sheeran, we signed for MK Dons. Like I said, these are all the deals that's coming since the takeover. And you can tell they're the players. Isaac Hutchinson, they're the players with the quality. No disrespect to any of our other players. But we got 3 or 4 to stand out for. There's one player for you that was number 7 last season.
Bobby Camwer.
Yeah, what a player.
Yeah, he's an amazing player about 5 times a season. There'll be like 5 games where he's like completely unplayable, and then there will be other games where he goes missing a bit. And like, that's what happens with tricky wingers, especially at this level, that they'll have games where they're incredible and games where they're anonymous. We also this season, I think we don't play to his strengths. Last year we played with wingers. This year we play with wing backs. Well, you can't really play him at wing back because his defending that's not a natural part of his game. So we've been trying to engineer ways to accommodate him in the team. I think we're starting to get there, but it's difficult. It's that classic thing of, do you change how you play so that you can include your technically best player, or do you play to the strength of the kind of squad as a whole? And we haven't, I think, got the best out of Camworth this season, but I don't envy the manager because, if you play a system that suits Bobby Camworth, then you create problems elsewhere. So I don't know the answer.
Well, oddly, when we played you and beat you 3-0 last season at your place, for the first 20 minutes, he was the problem for Cheltenham. You was playing the diagonals out to him, and for the first 20 minutes we struggled with him. And it was only when we sort of changed our system to kind of nullify the balls going out to him, he went quiet. But for the first 20 minutes, he stood out. And I said to a couple of lads, our end, I was like, if he was a player who's out of contract, I wouldn't mind to see him rocking up at Whaddon Road.
Well, he's in contract till the end of this season. But, I feel like he's building up to a really big game. He looked, decent for some short spells against Cardiff. I thought played really well at Accrington on Saturday. I think he's building up to a big game, so maybe it'll come this weekend. I
if you can wait for Harrogate, that'd be great. Yeah. For you guys, what's the feeling amongst Newport fans for Dave Hughes? Because obviously he's come with good pedigree. He was a coach at Man United.
Yeah, that's right. He's been a youth coach at Man United, like you say, Cardiff City, other places. He's on paper an extremely good coach. This is his first proper manager job, certainly in kind of league football. There's a lot to like about him as a human being. He's very calm, very reassuring in the way he talks, very thoughtful. I think, if I had a boss like Dave Hughes, I'd feel quite good. He's one of those people who just, you get the impression is a decent human being, speaks well to people, doesn't get carried away by the victories, the few that we've had, doesn't equally get carried away by misery when we're defeated. So, in that sense, he's got a lot in his favour. I suspect he's a very good coach of the young, inexperienced players we've got, but that's the problem. It's a very young, inexperienced squad. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe he was made promises about recruitment that haven't quite been followed through on. And we have got a squad that is a bit lacking in quality, very lacking in experience, and he's doing his best with what he's got. On paper, we have had a very, very poor start to the season. I think you look at the table and you go, actually, that's partly a reflection of what the fixture computer has done for us. And I think it's only now we're starting to get a sense of how good is this team. And I think
Ranger kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think by the time Halloween comes around, we will know, are we really, really going to struggle in a relegation scrap, or have we perhaps got the tools to fight our way out? And, the game on Saturday, I think, will be another big indication of that. I think if we get to Halloween and we've, not picked up probably another 3 points out of the next couple of games against you and against Harrogate, then I think, questions are going to start to be asked. But I think if we come out of that trio of games with 6 points or more, then I think people will go, okay, well, let's sort of wipe the slate clean a little bit. When it's really mattered, he's got his team to produce. We've also got a couple of really big players out injured. So Liam Shepherd, who we signed right at the end of the transfer window, who's been here before, very experienced right back, but can play multiple positions. And then the lad Smith in midfield, who, again, player who has a lot of experience, Wales caps, but has basically not left the treatment bench since he signed. So we're struggling for experience, and then the experienced players we have got are out injured.
Who's the lad you got? I think he's he's like a number 10. You got him on loan from Swansea.
Ben Lloyd, he's sort of fallen away a little bit. I think he impressed pre-season as a trialist and got a deal, but he's perhaps fallen out slightly. He's one of those who looks very technically gifted, like a really good technically gifted academy kid, but you throw them into 4th division football, and does he have the street smarts to outwit a big clunky defender? And in comparison, probably the other person who's vying for that position is young Kai Whitmore, who previously played in the Cymru leagues, and although he's technically not as proficient, works really hard. A proper like S-house of a midfielder, knows how to leave an elbow in here and there, and actually it's players like that who you probably need when you're in a scrap.
Yeah, I asked about Lloyd because we had him on trial in the summer as well, and didn't really stand out for me. To be fair, he didn't play a lot, but we got a player called Harrison Sona. He was at Villa, got let go by Villa and went to Sunderland. And I always say, if you get let go by one Premier club and you go to another Premier club, you must have something about you. But some of our fans beat Michael Flynn around the head with a stick a bit, going, "Oh, he's frozen him out." But he's unbelievable on the ball. But as good as he is on the ball, he's as poor off it. We played Cardiff in the League Cup, and he played in midfield, and Cardiff was just literally walking through him because he's not got that. So I get what you say about Lloyd. You do when you're in a scrap of League Two, you do need those Ben Stevensons, the players who know how to get stuck in.
Yeah, and like I say, we've got a few of those who are technically extremely good players who've come through academies, but this is where they've got to show whether they can make it as a professional, because if they're going to make it, then they've got to show they can stay in the sorts of games where you're up against rugged 4th division defenders with broken noses and tattoos who want to do you injury. So, yeah.
Yeah. Quick question. Obviously, we always look at our side, and a couple of our fans have fallen into that really dangerous trap of going, we're too good to go down, because some of the players we have got on paper are really good, decent players. Like, we've got Hutchinson, you've got Sam Sheeran, you've got James Wilson, you've got Ethan Archer, who we've sold to Luton for £500,000, but we've got him back on loan. Jordan Thomas, as I mentioned. So we've got some really good technical players, but on a Newport side of thing, who would you predict to be the bottom two, or is there anybody you've seen at the moment this season and thought they're really poor? I think they'll be down there.
Well, we're definitely not too good to go down. I think that's one thing that we have said is, we've got to be honest about where we're at. We are going to be in a relegation scrap this season. Like I say, we've not played that many sides who are down at the bottom so far, but it's interesting. Our 2 wins came against Crawley and Accrington. So I think that tells you, if we're not a great side and we're beating them, fully expect them to be down the bottom. The rest, I think, because we've played predominantly teams in the top half, almost exclusively teams in the top half, results have gone as you would expect. I think the other points we picked up were Tranmere. There was another draw somewhere along the way, but it's more or less gone with what the table would suggest, which is why I think we'll probably know a lot more in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, Accrington and Crawley are the 2 so far who I think I would expect to struggle.
Yeah, no, I concur with that. We played Accrington. We actually beat them 1-0 at home. We was poor, and so it just shows how poor they was. We lost 2-0 at Crawley. Again, a game where it was live on Sky, actually. If it had finished 0-0, it probably would have been fair because it was such poor quality. And my prediction at the beginning of the season were actually, I think I had Accrington and maybe Harrogate to go down, with yourselves just outside. And I want you guys to stay up because it's local. It's great to
we don't have that many local games, do we, down our corner of the country?
No, we don't. So I always hope the local side stay up. But yeah, I've not played Harrogate. Yeah, I watched them a couple of times on TV, and they just look dogged, Harrogate. They look like they can just get that result, and I think we've got them on a Friday night away. So that's another thing I'm not going to miss with Michael Flynn. He likes to change a few games to a Friday night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he does. Yeah, he must have things on a Saturday afternoon. Let's finish with a prediction then, Dan. What are you saying?
I'll stick to what I said on the other pods. I'm going to go with a narrow 2-1 win, just because of the Steve Cotterill bounce at the moment.
Yeah, I think one goal might be all that's in it. We've won our last couple of games 1-0, so I'm going to say let's keep that going and a 1-0 victory. But I genuinely think whoever scores first will find a way, and it's
Go
going to
either
be
way.
tight margins. Yeah. But yeah, look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
No, all the best after Saturday, and thanks for having me on.
All right, cheers.